We planned ahead in local government.
It was impossible for councils not to be aware of the impact the government spending review would have on local government.
The spending review does leave councils facing some of the biggest cuts in the public sector.
With budget cuts of 28% to hit local government over the next 4 years and 1 in 10 council jobs likely to go, staff are well aware of the difficulties they'll inevitably face. We heard from a few of the key figures in the debate about what happens next.
These cuts will hurt.
If you're an adult social care provider, your pressures guarantee, government accept this, that demography itself will add about 3% per year to your costs. Okay? So if someone is taking 28% from you, both in terms of cash and simple inflation, and you've also got 12% of demography, that's a big, big hill to climb over the next 3 to 4 years. Undoubtedly, frontline service effects.
It's bad. We knew it was going to be bad, though. I think where I work personally, we planned for it to be bad, so it's pretty much on a par with what we're planning for, but that doesn't mean it's easy to achieve.
Sadly, it's very much in line with what we were thinking and planning for, but my fear is with the announcements that are going to roll out, things could look even worse.
Initially, it looks like it's the right job that needed to be done. It doesn't mean it's not going to be difficult, it doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable, but we do need to get on with it, and we need to make sure that we are delivering efficiently and effectively, as local councils do.
The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse aren't wandering around. We will still be providing the basic services. The streets will be swept, the lights will be lit, the policemen will be walking, the firemen will be on duty. So the basic services will be there. But what we'll see is 2 things happening, in my suspicion. We'll do most things a little less. So in 4 years' time, everything will look a bit shabbier and a little tireder at best. But what we will fight to do is to try and keep as many of the services to the vulnerable going. The hidden services that most council taxpayers don't know that we provide, the children in care, for example, which is a tremendous financial burden, but I think is one of the most important things we do. No one's ever asked me a question about. It's 29 years as a councillor. So we'll be trying to keep those services to the vulnerable going, but that means that everything else will be cut to some extent.
Regardless of who won the election in May, it was patently obvious that there were going to be pressures on budgets. I'm very concerned about vulnerable adults, particularly people with learning difficulties, in making sure that they've got the necessary infrastructure and support. So I think that by working with our partners, we can actually help to ensure that we are delivering a good quality of services to the people who need our help and support.
In our area down in Poole, we have a high elderly population, so there's a major impact there. So we need to be clear that as many frontline people as can be supported are supported.
Cuts this deep, I don't think you can do it without affecting frontline personally.
But it seems there is still optimism for the future of local government, as a limited budget could mean significant changes to the way councils are run.
Yesterday's announcements paved the way for radical service transformation. The first phase of community budgets will be established in 16 places from April 2011, and we intend to make these generally available from 2013-14. And to ensure this happens, we will pool central funding from relevant budgets so that councils and other local public service bodies, including the voluntary and community sector, can work together to provide cohesive services for families, particularly for families with complex needs.
Well, I think it's the most drastic thing to happen to councils in recent years. However, I don't think it's necessarily all doom and gloom. Definitely it's going to be difficult for councils because they're going to have to make some really tough decisions, particularly decisions over staff, over getting rid of some of their staff, over cutting back services. But having said that, there are some opportunities in this as well. It could potentially be a really interesting time for reshaping how services are delivered on the ground, with a little bit more flexibility that we've been given in terms of being able to unring-fence budgets. It will be interesting to see how councils can actually move forward with localism to try and provide different services for their residents and more tailored to what their residents want.
Assets and people. I think that clearly what we see emerging are many councils looking at becoming enabling councils, commissioning councils, that through what's often referred to as divestment ask other people, whether the private sector or the voluntary sector or new forms of social enterprise and mutual, to deliver services while the council focuses on an enabling or a commissioning role. I think other councils will look to do some of that, but actually will want to keep services in-house that they think are important, but find different ways of doing it through shared services or through learning from other people or from outsourcing. So I think localism is about councils are going to do this in different ways. What we need to make sure now is that everybody knows the menu of choice available and can learn from best practice to the different routes that authorities will follow.
I am upbeat about the future for local government and localism in general. It provides something which 10 years ago, as leader of a council, I would given my eye teeth to have: the responsibility and the wherewithal to provide leadership, working with residents, public and voluntary organisation for a common good. I end by saying, what an opportunity has opened up. I hope you will seize it.